To begin, all the candidates will have about 2 minutes to make opening statements, and we'll start with Mr. Chapman.
Thank you, Cliff, and I'd first like to thank Salem Monthly and Willamette University for hosting this event. I think it's a great opportunity for us to spread our views in the community and for the community to hear about them. I decided to run for mayor because I think we can do better as a city. As Cliff mentioned, I've lived in Salem for about 30 years, and 25 of those years I've been very active in neighborhoods, working on a variety of issues, transportation issues, school safety, and most recently, of course, transit and budget and revenue kinds of issues. With the transit district, I got familiar with our disabled community and the needs of that group of folks. And so I've had a wide range of experience in our community. I also have a global perspective. I spent 2 years in the Peace Corps immediately out of college and returned to Sri Lanka in 2005 for 3 months to do tsunami relief work, and was struck by how much polarization, division, and war there is in that part of the world, and realized that that division is also very present in our country and here in our community. And I want to bring our city together. I'll do that by listening to all the voices of the community, and I think there are lots of them that don't feel like they're being heard very, very clearly and being represented. And by working to find common ground and make this a better place for this and future generations.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman. Councilor Bennett?
Well, thank you, and thank you to Salem Monthly and Willamette University for putting on the forum, and those of you who came out this evening to listen to us talk about local politics. I've served now for the past 6 months or so on the Salem City Council, and this is the largest audience I've talked to, so I'm extremely excited about it. You know, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself, but maybe I'll just kind of tell you a story because it gets me on, it kind of explains how I ended up, I think, on the Salem City Council. I arrived in Salem in 1966 over at the train station with my bags. My parents had packed my lunch in a road map and explained that college was my next destination and out of their basement. And I arrived here, and my first morning at Willamette, it's 8 a.m., and I'm across the way as I recall, I was at Eaton Hall, and I had taken political science because I was convinced that politics, it's 1966, okay? Politics is where it's happening. And politics was so ingrained in my life and so ingrained in what was going on around me in everything. I really looked forward to going in, and I met Dr. Ed Stillings. And for those of you who've been in town for some period of time, Dr. Stillings was a brilliant professor who taught us Plato and Aristotle and all of the Locke and Hobbes, and I can kind of go on and on. I actually remember some of this stuff, despite the fact it was 8 a.m. and I was a freshman at Willamette, 400 miles from home. But what Dr. Stillings really taught me was his example. He was serving then on the Salem City Council, and he got me fascinated by what he was doing. And this was at a time when we were just starting urban renewal. I mean, you'll read in the paper there's nothing to do in Salem. There was really nothing to do in Salem in 1966. What you could do in Salem in 1966 was begin a 13-hour drive in your Volkswagen to San Francisco to go to the Fillmore West. That's what you could do in Salem. And, but Dr. Stillings convinced me, and he convinced me with his example as I went on and left Willamette. I became a reporter at the then afternoon newspaper, the Capital Journal, and I covered City Hall. And he further convinced me that if you're going to live in a community, you have to be part of the community in your best capacity. And for me, it just happened to be, as I mentioned, politics was a big part of my life. This was the 60s. Then it was the 70s, and it was a very exciting time. It was very exciting here in Salem, too, politically, and I've remained committed to political activity and local government in Salem. It has made a difference since 1966 as I've seen it. It is a remarkable town. It's a town where there is lots to do. It's a town where things are changing, where anyone can become firmly involved in any part of city government that engages them. So I guess that kind of explains, I hope it explains at least in part, and we'll talk about it some more, what motivates me to be on the Salem City Council, and then to go out and ask the folks of Ward 1 to elect me to the position for a 4-year term. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bennett. Mrs. Dickey.
Well, when I first heard that the council seat was going to be open, and this was probably about, I don't know, a year and a half ago, I was talking with Rick Stuckey. He said he wasn't planning on running again. This was long before he had announced his resignation. I started thinking that this is something I would like to do. I've always wanted to run for public office, and this opportunity presented itself. I've lived in my neighborhood for 10 years, and I love my neighborhood. I love Salem, and I think there is a lot to do, actually, here. But I wasn't here 40 years ago, so I don't know what it was like in 1966. But I'm someone who cannot, if I see something that needs to be done, I'm not content to sit back and point out a problem and let somebody else take care of it. I'm willing to be part of the solution, and that's one reason why I'm here. I'm concerned about, especially when I looked out in my neighborhood and I saw that it seemed like some of the growth had sort of overrun to the point where the city was not able to provide the same level of essential services that they were able to provide to other neighborhoods. It seemed to me like I could do something, I had something to offer to help keep that under control. And also, I'm just really excited about Salem's future. I mean, we're just kind of on the cutting edge of so many things. We've got good things going downtown. Ward 5 has some great things happening. We've got the Kroc Center coming. We've got the new senior center. And we have a lot of diversity in Ward 5. And I feel like I can offer the leadership to be able to represent all the different parties we have. We're so ethnically diverse and geographically diverse. We have existing neighborhoods, we have developing neighborhoods, and I feel like I can help bring those all together and provide the representation that it needs.
Thank you, Mrs. Dickey.